HMS Prince of Wales is the Royal Navy's newest flagship and one of two Queen Elizabeth-class aircraft carriers that restored Britain's ability to project air power from the sea. Laid down and completed at Rosyth, the 65,000-ton ship went to sea for trials in 2019 and arrived in Portsmouth for the first time that November, before commissioning into frontline service in December of that year. Built to operate short takeoff and vertical landing jets rather than catapult aircraft, she uses the distinctive ski jump ramp at the bow that Britain pioneered in the late Cold War and refined for this generation of carriers. The result is a ship designed around the F-35B Lightning II, with the deck, hangar, fuel and weapons flow arranged to move jets and helicopters quickly and safely between maintenance and the flight deck. In peacetime she typically sails with a lighter complement of aircraft, but the design allows her to surge to dozens of combat aircraft and helicopters for major operations. She is physically imposing, about 284 meters long and roughly 73 meters across the flight deck, rising more than 50 meters from keel to masthead. That big deck is not just for show, it allows simultaneous launch and recovery spots for multiple aircraft and gives planners real flexibility when mixing jets, anti-submarine helicopters, airborne early warning assets and troop-lift machines. The core ship's company is lean by historic standards, around 670 sailors, thanks to extensive automation, but when the air group and additional embarked forces come aboard, the population can swell to around 1,600. For the Royal Navy this is a deliberate balance, a big enough hull to be stable in the North Atlantic, roomy enough for modern aircraft and the ammunition and spares they demand, but run by a crew small enough to be sustainable for long deployments. One of the most recognizable features is the twin island layout. Instead of a single superstructure, HMS Prince of Wales has two. The forward island houses navigation and ship control, while the aft island is the aircraft control tower for flight operations. This split provides redundancy, either island can assume the essential functions of the other if damaged or during maintenance, and opens up more usable deck space by separating the airflow and sightlines needed for safe aviation. Coupled with the ski jump ramp, the arrangement reflects a design philosophy that puts air operations first, giving the F-35BS more deck and staging room and allowing heavy helicopter types to operate without folding rotor blades. These apparently subtle choices matter in bad weather, in the dark, and when tempo is high. Under the skin, the ship runs on integrated electric propulsion rather than traditional mechanical drive. Two Rolls-Royce MT-30 gas turbines and 4 diesel generators produce electricity for everything, from radars and weapons to the powerful electric motors that turn the twin shafts. This layout spreads machinery through the ship to improve survivability and reduces the number of sailors needed in the engine spaces. It also gives naval architects more freedom to place aviation fuel, magazines, and workshops close to where they are needed. In simple terms, more power where it counts and a quieter, more efficient drive that suits a carrier designed to loiter, sprint, or hold station as task group operations demand. The air wing is the heart of the ship. HMS Prince of Wales is optimized for the F-35B, a stealthy, supersonic multi-role jet capable of short-deck takeoffs and vertical landings. In routine service the carrier may embark a dozen to 24 jets alongside Merlin anti-submarine helicopters and Merlin fitted with the Crown's airborne early warning system. In wartime, the design can support far more. Multiple sources put the sortie generation rate for the class at up to around 100 jet sorties per day under surge conditions, an intensity suited to short, sharp air campaigns in support of Allied navies and armies. For littoral operations, the ship can flip roles and load Royal Marines and a mix of Commando Helicopter Force Merlin, Wildcat, Chinook, and even Apache gunships to support amphibious raids and larger landings, showing how the deck plan and elevators were drawn to handle large rotorcraft. Like any new and complex warship, she has experienced teething issues, and recovered from them. In late August 2022, on departure for trials with the U.S. Navy and U.S. Marine Corps, a failure in the external coupling on the starboard propeller shaft forced the ship to anchor and later head to Rosyth for repairs. The Royal Navy later confirmed significant damage to the shaft and propeller but no harm to the rest of the hull, and an inquiry pointed to misalignment from the build stage and component installation issues as causal factors. The frank assessment allowed engineers and the yard to rectify the problem, and the ship returned to sea with lessons baked in, an unglamorous but essential part of bringing a new flagship to full readiness. The measure of a carrier is what it does at sea. In 2023, HMS Prince of Wales conducted intensive F-35B flight trials off North America with US and UK squadrons, gathering data to expand the way the jets operate from the ship in real weather and real sea states. These trials are about the nuts and bolts of operations: launch weights, crosswinds, deck motions, approach symbology, safe separation margins, all the small pieces that, once validated, add up to more aircraft on the deck, heavier weapon loads in the air, and more reliable day-night operations over a long deployment. Naval aviation is a craft learned through such empirical work, and it is the quiet foundation of credible carrier strike. The ship stepped into a highly visible role again in early 2024, when her sister ship suffered a defect just before NATO's largest post-Cold War series of exercises. HMS Prince of Wales sailed north to take the lead, forming the core of a UK-led multinational carrier strike group for the Steadfast Defender sequence in the High North and Norwegian Sea. With British frigates and tankers alongside US, Spanish and Danish escorts, she provided the deck and command facilities for cross-alliance training, fast jet missions, anti-submarine hunts in some of the world's most challenging waters, and complex air defense drills against peer threats. In a very public way, she demonstrated that the Royal Navy's carrier enterprise can absorb shocks and still deliver, which is exactly what alliances expect from a flagship. Carrier groups are not just about jets. Protecting a carrier in the North Atlantic or on a transit to the Indo-Pacific involves a choreography of escorts, submarines and aircraft. HMS Prince of Wales operates with Type 45 destroyers for area air defense, Type 23 or Type 26 frigates for anti-submarine warfare, Royal Fleet auxiliary tankers and supply ships to keep fuel and stores flowing, and often allied units to round out the screen. On board, Merlin HM-2 helicopters extend the ship's ears and claws beneath the waves, and Krausnest airborne early warning fits add the crucial high-eye radar picture, now reaching full operational capability with upgraded sensors and networking. That layered protection is what enables the carrier to generate sorties safely, and it is refined every deployment as tactics, sensors and weapons evolve. Even outside pure warfighting, the ship is a magnet for experimentation. Recent deck trials have seen uncrewed target drones launched and recovered to stress test procedures, with the Royal Navy openly exploring how large flight decks can host more unmanned systems over time. The Queen Elizabeth class has the power, the space, and the workshop depth to integrate these capabilities without sacrificing the F-35B core mission. For audiences used to seeing drones only from land bases, a carrier like HMS Prince of Wales is a reminder that the sea is a launch pad for the unmanned era as well. The debate around carriers, cost, vulnerability, relevance in a missile-saturated world, inevitably follows HMS Prince of Wales wherever she goes. Critics point to price tags and maintenance demands, advocates point to the flexibility of a sovereign airfield that can move 500 nautical miles in a day, show the flag in a crisis, fly disaster relief sorties after a hurricane, or lead a coalition's first blows in a conflict. The Royal Navy's answer is pragmatic: a large deck offers options. It supports fast jets 1 month and heavy-lift helicopters the next, it hosts allies and command staffs for joint operations, it anchors a task group that can cross oceans without touching a port. The class was deliberately sized to be big enough to matter and adaptable enough to stay useful through decades of change, and exercises and deployments since 2021 have steadily converted that concept into working practice. All of this is underpinned by the very human rhythm of life aboard. A lean crew means broader responsibilities, sailors and aviators multi-skilled to keep the deck moving, the magazines loaded and the aircraft turned. The hangar becomes a small city of maintainers, armorers and logisticians, with a 24-hour cycle that peaks at dawn and dusk when jets roar up the ski jump. On the bridge, the ship's company watches weather and sea state like hawks, adjusting speed and course to keep a steady deck under the landing aircraft. In the operations room, air controllers knit together the radar picture from the ship, the escorts, and the helicopters, while the strike staff plan the next wave. To an outside observer, the most dramatic moments are the takeoffs. To the people making it happen, the true magic is how the whole machine keeps time in the dark, in the cold and far from home. This is the piece the public rarely sees, but it is why navies invest in carriers at all. The carrier's recent operational tempo also reflects a strategic recalibration. Europe's renewed focus on high-end deterrence in the North Atlantic and Arctic, growing attention to the Indo-Pacific, and the need to plug seamlessly into US, NATO and allied air and naval networks all shape how HMS Prince of Wales trains. She has already operated under NATO command for major exercises, an important signal about interoperability and trust, and the Royal Navy has been explicit that the carriers are instruments of alliance cohesion as much as national capability. Whether exercising off Norway, running complex passage exercises with partners en route to Asia, or proving out tactics with U.S. Marine Corps F-35BS on deck, the ship has become a stage where allies practice the kind of fast integration that would be essential in crisis. There is also a candid acceptance that complex machines need continuous improvement. The shaft incident in 2022 was a serious setback, but investigating the fault and fixing it fast was a test of the program's resilience. Big deck carriers demand engineering depth ashore and afloat, and the UK's industrial base has had to relearn some of those rhythms after a gap in carrier building. The payoff is visible in the way HMS Prince of Wales has since handled heavy flight trials, surged to lead a NATO phase when called, and supported a steadily more ambitious training calendar. Getting to that point required admitting hard truths, documenting causes, and investing in remediation, exactly the sort of disciplined approach audiences rarely hear about, but which determines whether a ship is merely impressive or genuinely effective. In the years ahead, expect the flight deck to keep evolving. As the UK grows its fleet of F-35BS and as new weapons, sensors, and data links come online, the routines on deck and in the hangar will shift to extract more performance from the same hull. Airborne early warning fits are maturing, maritime strike options for the wider force are expanding, and the Royal Navy has signaled an interest in longer-range carrier-borne effects, manned and unmanned, that extend the reach of the task group. The Queen Elizabeth class was designed with the margin to take these upgrades in stride. HMS Prince of Wales, still early in her life, is likely to look subtly different 5 and 10 years from now, a sign that the ship is a living system rather than a static monument. For viewers, the story of HMS Prince of Wales is a mix of spectacle and substance. The spectacle is the visual drama of jets leaving the ski jump, rotors beating down spray as merlins hover on the beam, and the vast deck glowing under floodlights at midnight. The substance is the detailed engineering, the training, and the allied integration that turn that spectacle into credible power. When she sailed north in 2024 to take the lead at short notice, she showed the quiet reliability real operations demand. When she worked through flight test cards with American colleagues, she invested in the data and discipline that make tomorrow's sorties safer and heavier. And as she settles into a rhythm of deployments and experiments, she is beginning to fulfill the promise of a new British carrier era, a flexible, modern airfield at sea that can move where it is needed, bring allies with it, and keep flying when the weather and the world get rough.